Well, welcome back to Wisdom with the Wise Counselor. I'm your host, the Wise Counselor, also known by my birth name. It's simply Lateef. And as always, this podcast is all about building your emotional resiliency, living life on purpose and in purpose 24/7, 365, and being very intentional about nourishing your wellness. I'm talking about your mind, your body, and your soul. Excuse me. Family, I need you to buckle up here because today's message is not just a story. It's a reminder, a correction. It's a mirror. And honestly, it's a blessing because sometimes, the universe will use the smallest moments, the most unexpected moments even, to bring the biggest clarity to your eyes, right? So let's dive right on in. A little story time. Last night, I had the privilege of attending a holiday show put on by a local dance troupe. Those nights where everything just feels right. The music, the community, the artistry, the whole room was just glowing with joy. And what made the night even more beautiful was the troupe's decision to bring in two youth nonprofit dance companies to share the stage with them that evening. And one of the groups featured a set of little girls, right? Little tiny dancers, I would say between the ages of 6 and 9 years old. And it was about 10 of them. And they came skipping on the stage in their festive costumes, bright eyes, ready to take on the world. But as soon as they started dancing, it was one little girl. She was standing front and center. She immediately drew my attention. And family, she stole the whole show. I'm not being funny here. She literally stole the whole show. And it's not because she was the oldest. It's not because she did the most. It's not because she was trying to prove anything. Her movements had rhythm. Her movements had flow. Her movements had honesty. Her transitions, and I don't even know about dance, but I know it looks good. And I know her transitions were smooth like water pouring out from a pitcher on a hot summer day. Come on now. She wasn't stitching steps together like some of the other girls were because they're young and they're still trying to figure out their body and how to present and how to really move. She was dancing. Most of the girls were moving, just stitching together the steps. But this little girl was dancing wholeheartedly, effortlessly, authentically. And here's the part that shook me the most. Every other girl on the stage was watching her, not in intimidation, but in inspiration. She was their anchor. She was their compass. She was their leader, whether she knew it or not. Now, I know a little bit about the arts world. I don't know a lot about dancing, but I know that choreographers, is that the right word? Choreographers will intentionally put strong people in the front so that you give other dancers confidence and a visual clue on what to do. And certainly this little girl was in a position for a purpose like that. So, as I was looking from the audience, I felt something very heavy drop into my spirit. And it's this message. Some of us have no idea how gifted we are because we never stop to notice who's watching us. That little girl was not performing for attention. She wasn't trying to outshine anybody. She didn't add extra moves or force herself into the spotlight, right? She simply did the assignment with excellence and a pure heart. And baby, let me tell you, excellence speaks louder than anybody's ego ever will. And as adults, we lose that childlike purity sometimes. We start comparing. Maybe not even intentionally, but we compare and then we start, competing and we start performing instead of serving. And we get caught up in applause and trying to seek affirmations. And then we get into that spirit of needing to be seen. But children just shine. They don't dilute their light and they don't weaponize it either. Watching her made me reflect on something deep. Greatness rooted in arrogance always collapses. Did you hear me, family? I said, greatness rooted in arrogance will always collapse, but greatness rooted in humility multiplies because people don't want to just feel your talent. And I don't know what your talent is. Maybe it is something in the arts world, or maybe it's something with literature, or in the world of academics, or in the world of sports. Whatever the case may be, whatever your talent is, whatever your ministry is, whatever the universe has poured into you that makes you uniquely you. People don't just want to feel it. They want to feel your spirit through your gifts, right? And I've said this before, and I will say it again. A gift wrapped up in ego is repellent, but a gift wrapped in humility, it's irresistible. It's going to draw people, and they're going to want to know more about it and more about you. So later in that evening, I saw her and her mom as the show was over and people were taking pictures and I was greeting people that I knew. I walked over to that little girl and I said, "You danced beautifully." I didn't know this girl from Joe Schmo, but I wanted her to know that I noticed her in that moment. And I said, "You danced beautifully. Keep going. I see so much potential in you." And this is the thing. I don't know what that meant to her. And I don't even really have the strongest credibility to evaluate dance moves. But I know what that moment meant to me. And it reminded me that our gifts were never meant to be trophies. I don't care what your gift is or what your unique talent is or what it is that makes you special. Those gifts were never meant to be trophies. They were meant to be tools to uplift people and to inspire people and to guide the people around us. See, your gift is not about you. It's about how you use it to help others. So if you want to protect your gift, you better protect your heart, right? So I don't know. That was just the background of the story. And I thought it was be a perfect podcast. And so really that's the message right there. I want to dive into the part of the podcast that I like to call the Wise Counselor Unfiltered. And this is 3 things that I really want you to hear from the top of the podcast that are really sinking in my heart right now. If your gift makes people feel small, baby, that is not a gift. That is a warning sign to check your spirit. And I'm not here to tell you how to show up and how to utilize the tools that the universe is giving you. But I'm telling you, if your gift makes other people feel small, that's a warning sign that maybe you need to make some adjustments on how you are choosing to show that gift to the world and the people around you. And at the end of the day, you need to check your spirit. Another thing I want you to hear, some of you are leading from the front, just like that little girl was from the front. I don't know if that was her doing or more of the choreographer's staging of her knowing how special she was and that she could be a leader of this young girl's troupe. And she certainly was. But some of y'all were leading from the front, but serving with an ego. People are following your talent. People are always listening and they're watching. I don't care what the metrics say on social media. I don't care if somebody came up to say you did a real great job or thank you. Listen, people are always looking and they're watching. And we don't know what the intent of people's heart is, but people want to see success, but also people want to see you fail. But that's a story for another day. But I want you to hear this. They are following your talent, but they don't necessarily trust your heart. They don't trust your heart. That's where we have to be intentional about being humble. And we have to be recognizing that the average Joe has a spirit of competitiveness in them. It's a natural human response that even though we might say we're not jealous about what people have or what makes them special, people definitely take notice. And so I need you to always, again, come back to checking your spirit, checking your heart, because people won't necessarily know your heart. So again, some of y'all are leading from the front, but serving from ego. If that applies to you, or you feel like you are not using your gifts in a way that truly is encompassing of community and growing other people, then I need you to pause and think about why that is. And the last moment I want to jump into, or the last thought is, humility is not shrinking. It's shining without stepping on anybody else. Ooh. And see, I don't know about you, but in my professional career, I'm surrounded by greatness each and every single day. And if I wanted to, I could get petty and start criticizing everything that people do in order to try to help glorify me and all of my greatness. And that would not be rooted and not trying to step on other people. See, it's all about your heart posture. Are you saying something because you want people to grow and be better? Or are you saying something to be catty, to be petty, and to try to tear somebody down? True greatness lifts the room. It doesn't drain it. So I need you to think about, how are you using your presence, your hands, your mouth, your talent, your networking, your connections, and your vision for your life and for your community? How are you using that to ensure that it's not a drain on other people? Because, baby, anybody can call themselves a celebrity. Anybody can do a lot of different things to get people's attention. But let me remind you, true greatness lifts the room. It don't need to be the center of attention in a room. So let's dive a little deeper into the reflection room. I want you to really sit down on this one, because this is going to get a little bit deeper since the top of the podcast was a little shorter. So take a breath, slow down, and let's reflect a little bit more on this topic. I want you to think about a couple of questions and topics here. Number one, what is the real spirit behind your gift? Have you thought about that? You've got greatness in you, but what is the spirit behind your gift? Are you serving or are you performing? Are you lifting or are you competing? Is your gift flowing from love? And do you show up from a place of love and humbleness, or are you showing up from a place of insecurity? I don't know. You don't have to verbalize that to anybody, but I want that message to sit on your heart. Is your gift flowing from love, or is it flowing from a space or a place of insecurity? Be honest. See, truth is a mirror. And it doesn't need to be perceived as punishment. It's about a growth mindset, and you start and get better and grow by being honest within yourself. Here's another reflection question. Who looks at you without you realizing it? See, we all have people who study our moves, whether it's in person or online, at work, even at home, the younger siblings, the coworkers, the students, the friends, even a stranger, right? What responsibility comes with being somebody else's blueprint? Now, listen, I'm not saying that you've got to modify, shift, and shake who you are at your core because you think somebody or somebody is watching you. But we have to carry ourselves recognizing that greatness is in us. And because of that factor, we have a responsibility to protrude and to edify and to showcase greatness, because somebody else might be using our narrative, our testimony, our walk as their blueprint. And I know that's a lot of weight to carry. And not everybody is going to be, equally yoked to have that kind of dominant influence or indirect influence on people. But if you are somebody who's in a place that can influence people and grow people for the better, you must ask yourself what responsibility comes with being somebody else's blueprint, because you may not want it. But if you're working in a space of excellence, then automatically you assume the role of being somebody's blueprint or even role model. How do you respond when someone else shines? Do you celebrate it? Do you shrink? Do you get tense? Do you get resentful? Because that's going to really tell you the posture of your heart. Are you okay with somebody getting their flowers? Or is it all about you? I don't know. Again, I'm not dragging you through the mud. These are things you've got to think about. How do you respond when you see somebody else shining, right? See, your reaction to someone else's light, it reveals a lot about the condition of your own. And again, for us to grow and get better, we got to be introspective. We got to be honest with what is on our heart and what guides our hands and our minds and how we operate and step into this world. If you're feeling some kind of way, when you know people that you love or people that you don't even know are finding success and you're feeling some kind of way about that in a negative way, you've got to think about that. And why is that? Because it's revealing the condition of your own heart. And then you got to make some pivots and some moves and do some things about that, because that's a heart that's unfortunately at that moment rooted in some type of bondage or jealousy or fear even. It's something that's not pure. And that's something that you have to go work through and get through that. And I've been in that space where I'm looking around like I work just as hard as XYZ. I do more than XYZ. Why haven't I had my moment? Why can't I get that kind of recognition? And that's where the spirit of comparison, as we talked about at the top of the podcast, that spirit of comparison can shift your energy, and you got to control that, and it cannot control you. And again, it comes down to, can you recognize that that is a trait, or that is maybe a response to how you have responded to somebody else who's doing great things and shining? Here's another thing to think about. Where have I confused performance with purpose? Some of us aren't tired because the gift is heavy. We're tired because we've turned, worship, if you will, into competition, and service into show, and our purpose into a performance. And I got a simple question just to ask. Where do you need to return to purity? Because again, we shift how we show up based on experience, what we see, what we hear, what we feel from other people. But at our core, we weren't tainted with jealousy. So the question really is, again, where do you need to return to purity? When did the shift happen? When did you start second guessing or even moving differently so that you could outshine somebody else? And that was your singular goal, and it didn't have anything to do with building somebody else up or helping a community. See, that's narcissistic. So how do you get yourself back to that place of purity where it was about loving and helping and being involved in community? And yes, being successful, but not overshadowing and taking over other people or doing things with non-clean hands and unclean hearts to get what you needed. See, that's not pure. So that's something to think about. All right, those are kind of 4 things that I wanted to press into you. And I also want to go a little bit deeper into the reflection room. This is going to be some professional guidance kind of thing, wrapping around the concepts of, psychology principles, counseling theory, and life coaching pedagogy. How about that? And so I want you to think about this. Think about tools that anchor you. Here's a couple of ideas. The first is like the centering practice. I need you to reclaim your intentions. Before using your gift, whether you're speaking, dancing, leading, teaching, singing, whatever, creating, pause and ask yourself, who am I doing this for? If the answer is ego, validation, approval, or fear, take another breath until your spirit settles, okay? Here's another anchoring technique or something to think about. Humbleness check-in. Let's say that. See, humility isn't weakness. Humility is leadership with integrity. So every week you need to be intentional about asking yourself, did I encourage somebody this week? Did I lift somebody up and help them build their talent? And ask yourself also, did I allow room for another person to shine? Because again, if you are operating in a space where you want to be the dominant alpha in everything because you've got a gift that you feel everybody must know about, baby, that is not going to work because people can see through that. And again, talent with somebody who is narcissistic and has an ego ain't going to work. I need you to do that humbleness check-in, right? And that will help you kind of keep your spirit aligned with purpose. So ask yourself those questions. And here's another kind of grounding technique. It's kind of an emotional accountability technique. It's just naming your triggers. I want you to write down the moments when you feel or you felt threatened by somebody else's gift. And that's not to shame yourself, or to feel bad about it, but it's to understand it, right? Because we've all been in that position where somebody has done something or showed out in a way that made us question us and we didn't like it. And they didn't do anything but step into their glory. And so that's where we got to start naming our triggers. Here's another grounding technique, purpose alignment exercise. Ask yourself monthly, if you will, is this gift still aligned with my purpose? If you feel drained, disconnected, or resentful, your gift may be pulling you away from your purpose. So it's time to realign, reset, and refocus. And that's just a good practice to do, irregardless of the topic of this podcast today. If your gift or whatever you are pouring yourself into does not feel like it is aligned with your purpose and it is obviously draining you, or you have become resentful, it may be time to pull away and to reshift, refocus, reset, and get realigned before moving forward and causing any more damage, right? So here's one more kind of technique, if you will, or some anchoring tools. I like to call this one the little girl mirror moment. And I know I have gentlemen listening, so be a little girl for a second. It's a little girl mirror moment. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to picture the little dancer that we talked about at the top of the podcast from this perspective. They were front and they were center, not for the fame, but for the flow. See, confident, but not arrogant, right? You are gifted, but you're still grounded. I want you to think about that little girl having all of those emotions and having that spirit and energy around her, right? And now I need you to ask yourself, where is that version of you? The one who isn't just performing, but you're just being. You got to reconnect to that purity as we talked about. And you got to reconnect with that honesty. That's the unfiltered version of your gift that deserves a space everywhere that you go. All right, family, that is the podcast for the day. I hope that you don't just take this message and let it go in one ear and out the other. I want you to sit with it. I know that there is something in this podcast that you can take and run with and nibble on and water and really apply to your life. Do the work. Stop the podcast if you hear one nugget that resonates with your spirit, in your mind, or in your heart, and run with that. But I need you to hear this. There is no time like the present moment to reclaim yourself, to take care of yourself, and to dive deeper into how you're going to walk in your purpose. You have to remember that greatness and changing and being honest with yourself, and just evolving into the 3.0 version of you, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes time. And I guess that's the blessing, that we have the opportunity, and that if we are still on this earth, we have that time, and that is a gift. Ease into you and to be appreciative of that time. And we appreciate time by pausing and really being intentional about the moments that we have, right? And that the universe is ushering in for us. So pause. Because that's how you're going to grow, when you appreciate what you have and you really are applying that growth that you want to see for yourself and not making it a burden to shift overnight. At the end of the day, I need you to remember this. You are the only one who is in control of your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions to what life throws your way. I'm telling you, I love that. Thank you, Brenda Fisher. She was my counseling mentor from over a decade ago, who taught me that. And she had that posted in her office. I will never forget that. You are the only one who is in control of your thoughts, your actions, and your reactions to what life throws your way. And when you grab a hold of that, man, oh man, that shifts your life. I love you, Brenda Fisher, and family. I love you guys. Know that I believe in you, and that whatever you are facing this week, next month in 2026, because it's coming, baby, I know that it's going to be well. Because you got what you need to be successful and to move forward. And so with that, I want to say be well. Know that I appreciate you stopping by and listening to the podcast. I can't wait to continue to hear about the evolution of you. And I can't wait for you to check my next podcast episode out because, I'm just dropping nuggets, and I just know and I believe in my heart of hearts that something that I said today is going to transform somebody's life, and at a minimal will be a seed that they will be empowered to water so that they can continue to grow. Love you, family, and I can't wait to see you next time.